Pleasant good evening to all my viewers, listeners and fans from all over the world. It's my pleasure once again to welcome you to another YouTube presentation. And first and foremost, I will start off with a motivational word. And the motivational word is that sport must never amount to naught. And the reason why this statement is being made, notwithstanding the fact that different nations have different economic standing in the world, it is important that we leverage the power of sport to pull people together, different races, of different classes, of different socioeconomic statuses, etc. Because it is indeed provides an outlet and a relief from the normal stresses of life, as exemplified in the just concluded World Cup yesterday. That sport has the capacity to pull people together at a physical level, and the physical benefits that will arise at a psychological level, and the many benefits that people will benefit from socially in terms of bringing both players and fans together, and the revelry, the camaraderie, the atmosphere around competing against each other, the spiritual benefits, the economic, the political, and the social. So such an activity must be encouraged at all levels, through all institutions, educational, social, in the communities, and in every way possible, so that we can bring people together on a healthy basis, and not just physical health, as I said, psychological health, physical, social, and provide that vast outlet, as I mentioned a while ago, from the dramas, the many dramas and painful dramas, episodes in life. So, sport is an important tool that must be used by all nations, by all institutions, and be encouraged, so that people can certainly enjoy a better quality of life. So sport is never ever amount to naught. So having shared the motivational word with you, remind you of our services. We have our ongoing courses. We have one entitled The Fundamentals of Public Speaking, a 4-week course costing $1,200 to students, $1,800 to the general public. 4-week course entitled Mastering Emotional Intelligence and Becoming Emotionally Resilient. Priced at $1,800 to students, $2,500 for the general public. Groups of 5 can pay a price of $7,500, where each person will benefit from a discount of $1,000, where you only pay $1,500 per head. And of course, we have our ongoing course entitled The Fundamentals of Psychology, costing $3,800, and you can make that payment in 2 parts, 3 parts, or even 4 parts, because of the commitment we have for you to participate. You can also book a counseling or coaching appointment. You can also buy our book Conversation, priced at 100 TT, 45 EC dollars, or 15 United States dollars. So all you need to do is give us a call, 1-868-778-5141, 1-868-779-2544, or email us at leadershipwithadifference@gmail.com. You can also contribute through our YP link on the description page by making your contribution in that manner. So there are many avenues for you to contribute and continue supporting the work of our channel. We thank all those who have subscribed, and we encourage those who have not yet subscribed to subscribe, to like, share, and comment on our videos. So, having told you about our services, I will now get into the presentation and with our customary introduction. So I, Imo Bakari, your psychologist and life coach. It is my desire for you to go higher. It is my desire for you to go higher, so that you can unleash your fire. That's truly my desire. So once again, welcome to this week's YouTube presentation. And the title of this presentation is Reflection on the 2022 World Cup. As I mentioned to you previously, this channel is not exclusively a sports channel, but I have been an ardent fan of cricket, of football, and sport in general. And it is beyond a shadow of a doubt that football is the most popular sport in the world, whether in the Christian world, the Arabic world, whatever definition you put to define the world. Certainly football is the one that galvanized the greatest global following and support, and is indeed a very big industry as manifested in the various leagues, the English Premier League, the La Liga in Spain, the French League, and other leagues across the world. So, you know, I must say congratulations to Argentina and Lionel Messi, and congratulations to all the nations who made it to the World Cup, because just making it to the World Cup is a phenomenal achievement. And I'm sure you will agree with me that the 2022 World Cup, of World Cups contested over the last 20 years, you know, certainly has been one of the most exciting, certainly the most exciting during that span. Some may even argue probably of all World Cups, but of course that is debatable. But definitely of the last 5 World Cups, this one certainly has been, you know, very exciting. Also too, we know there was a lot of controversy with the last FIFA executive in terms of the staging of this World Cup in Qatar. And from all appearances, all reports, by and large, it appeared to be a tremendous success. Of course, we heard a lot of issues about pre the World Cup, about, you know, migrant labor exploitation and other such issues. I am not privy to facts to state further at it, but certainly we can see that it was the World Cup itself was well managed, and the Qatarian government certainly did a good job in hosting the 2022 World Cup. And given the controversy that existed with the last executive, I guess some of them may be feeling pretty justified. But that is not the tenor of this presentation. As I said, it's my own personal reflections. So the excitement was high. We had a few surprises, and Saudi Arabia certainly, you know, didn't make it past the first round, but it's recorded in the 2022 World Cup that Saudi Arabia defeated the eventual world champions 2-1 in the first game that they played, and we cannot take away that from the Saudis. Other teams didn't make it further. Ecuador went out in the first round. Germany went out in the group of 16. Brazil went out in the quarterfinals. You know, the Netherlands also went out. But at the end of the day, football was a big winner, and people across the globe certainly got tremendous relief from the normal stresses of life. And there are many lessons to be drawn from the World Cup. And the World Cup, like life, there were many highs and there were many lows. Alright? For example, Morocco did not win the African Cup of Nations, yet Morocco was the first African country to reach a semi-final of the World Cup and ended up fourth in the World Cup, even though they didn't win the African Cup of Nations. So certainly the Moroccans can hold their heads high, and their supporters can indeed feel proud of such an achievement. Alright? The French team, which many people were supporting, they put up a gallant effort, at least from the 80th minute onwards to extra time, because for the first hour or so, Angel Di Maria certainly had the French team on the back foot. He was virtually running rings around the team, and was instrumental in the both goals. The first one and the second one that he himself scored. And the first one he drew the penalty, and the second one he completed the move by slotting that ball in a brilliant team effort to score the second goal. So he definitely was instrumental in the 2-0 score line, and as fate had it, Kylian Mbappe again showed his brilliance, converting a penalty, scoring a volley on another penalty to score a hat-trick in the World Cup since the 1960s. Now, other lessons from the World Cup, when we look at the many stars, whether it was Ronaldo, Messi, Kylian Mbappe, beside their individual brilliance and skill, we could have seen an unending love displayed by all these players and all players for their country. So notwithstanding their status, playing for their country certainly stood supreme. And this is something we in Trinidad and Tobago, players from Trinidad and Tobago, could draw upon. Yes, there are many challenges in terms of administration, in terms of financial support, in terms of players having problems to be paid. But certainly that passionate love for country is something that you can draw upon. Of course, all the other ingredients must fit in place in terms of proper infrastructure, proper support, etc., to motivate players, right? But that was certainly very obvious to one and all. The commitment, the never say die attitude, these are attributes certainly to draw upon. And the closeness of the games, as I said, it indicates that people are investing more into football, people are employing higher level strategies, and on any given day is the team that actually executes their game plan or adjusts according to the flow of the game who can actually turn out to be victorious. Because all of those games were hard fought to the very end, and at various points no one was sure as to exactly how the games will have turned out. So perseverance, determination, investment, passion, proper coaching, all of these things are important, right? Because the end product is not just 11 players playing against each other, but a whole properly structured program, properly executed, properly supported on the medical side, on the nutrition side, on the playing side, on the mental side, on the infrastructure side. So there's a lot of things that went into it, all right? So, as I said earlier, that, football is a world war, but the world war fought this time with a football and not with bombs, guns, and cannons. When you look at the desire to win, we could say countries at war, but war in a different way. War in a manner where players are striving to ensure that their country comes out on top. Because when a country wins a World Cup, the benefits are tremendous. People become more interested in the country, people do more research on the country, people want to visit the country, and of course it's a tremendous boost to the economy in the country, to the sporting industry, and a host of other things that can be properly leveraged to really give that country benefits that are fully maximized and leveraged. So it's certainly war, but war with a difference, right? And that's the kind of war we would like to encourage, where mankind could be a better beneficiary. We still have obstacles in terms of sometimes people's attitude to players based on how they look, because we know in many of the major leagues across the world, African players are still subjected to monkey chance. It is sad and despicable as a reflection of the low development of millions of people. But in 2022 and continuing for some time, that they can be making monkey chance to such players who are bringing such joy and bringing such stability to many teams across the globe. Because when we look at many of the top teams, the contribution of African players, whether born in the continent or otherwise, cannot be denied, you know. So, you know, I saw a TikTok video where two guys were having a chat, humorous chat, and were identifying the number of players who, you know, emanated from the African continent or have African parents who were in so many teams. So let us support humanity and not stupidity by emphasizing on race. As I said in the motivational word, sport has that power to transcend class, race, socioeconomic status, and let us ensure that we maximize those benefits rather than being petty with comments and attitudes that really belong to the Stone Age. So another reflection that I would like to speak about, you know, is that it is being said, it is being promoted that, you know, Lionel Messi, who arguably is definitely a top player, you can say a great player, and some are arguing the greatest of all time, and of course that is very debatable because we need to establish what is the objective criteria that is exactly being used to make such an evaluation. Because after 5 World Cups, you know, God bless his team, he emerged victorious in lifting a World Cup title. But remember, 5 World Cups on, right? He scored 13 World Cup goals after 26 matches. Is that enough? Of course, he has scored many, many other goals in the top leagues. Is that enough for him to be rated? Is his influence on the team compared to other great players similar or less? Is his capacity to play in different positions, is that a consideration? Because I don't think he can play in every position on the field. But when we think of Pelé, he scored 12 World Cup goals in 14 World Cup matches. He lifted 3 World Cup titles, 2 being back-to-back. And his influence on the game 52 years after retiring is unmistakable. And some would argue that we have to first talk about Pelé and then the others, right? A former Brazilian coach, Saldana, spoke about Pelé being able to play in every possible position. And he even said if he was put in the goal, he would have been good there also. So, you know, that is a debate that will continue. It is always said that you cannot compare players from different generations. But when I reflect that 52 years after Pelé, of course, being from a different generation, and who must be part of the debate, and whose name cannot be erased of the debate, all right? We have Maradona, another great Argentine. He scored 8 World Cup goals. But was his influence stronger than Messi? All of these things are debatable, but, you know, establishing a criteria is critical. Otherwise, you know, we can certainly voice our opinions and our views with passion, but, you know, if we really have to zero down in a scientific manner, we need to arrive at an objective criteria that will span across eras, which is always a challenge, as many of the pundits would argue. So I am also concur with those who will say Pelé was in a class of his own, and then we talk about the others. But nonetheless, football is the winner for the contribution of all of those outstanding players. And the 2022 World Cup, certainly, it brought great joy to many. It brought pain, it brought tears, it brought anger, it brought frustration, because the World Cup certainly is a reflection of life, right? The ebb and flow. One time you're up, one time you think you're almost there, and in the flash, in a moment, the whole thing has changed. So, football, certainly the world's most popular sport. Football needs to be supported, needs to be encouraged, particularly in the Caribbean, particularly in the less well-off nations. And Qatar certainly is an oil-rich country. Qatar won the bid, albeit all the controversies that might have surrounded it. There was a lot of, as I said, you know, concerns expressed about, you know, exploitation of migrant labor and other issues. But when we look at the whole management of the World Cup, they can take a bow for running a very, you know, successful program and creating a good impression on the world. So notwithstanding certain differences to other World Cup, in terms of, non-alcohol use, etc. As one journalist said, there was not one fight among normal groups of people who normally would have engaged in such an activity. So the 2022 World Cup brought the world together, and brought the world together in a positive way. And this type of activity certainly must be encouraged, particularly, as I said, in countries where they are less developed, to give a kind of recognition and a face to many persons who, if it was not for football, the world would not have known about. So we now talk about Kylian Mbappe. Some are saying the next greatest player, but it is indeed a very phenomenal thing to know that he's representing France of African parentage. And I saw a video recently where his father was his coach for many years. His father predicted he would have been a pro. His father said one of the most things that he's pleased about is the values that he that he reflects. And it was reported in the last World Cup, all of his earnings was donated to charity. So we not only have a great player in Kylian Mbappe, but we have a great human being. So all of these things, reflect greatness. So when we're talking about great players and their impact on the game, I think we really have to be careful in terms of how we are arriving at that criteria to determine who really is the greatest of all time or not. And Kylian certainly has announced himself to the world, and certainly the world will be hearing much more of him. In the English team, we have many African players. Some of them came, into Europe under unfavorable conditions, and through their God-given talents, they have announced themselves to the world. Bukayo Saka being one, a host of others, Romelu Lukaku in Belgium, and a host of those players, through their God-given talent, through the institution of football, the world knows about them and their household names. So my simple message in this reflection, it brought great joy to me. I came from a footballing community here in Trinidad and Tobago, Point Fortin, and I must put in a plug. Point Fortin has produced some of the greatest footballers that Trinidad has produced. And it was indeed, as I reflect on this World Cup, a tragedy that Trinidad and Tobago would have made the World Cup since 1973, when we had an infamous game where we scored 5 goals and 4 were disallowed, and Haiti was given a victory, depriving the world to witness talents such as Steve David, Everett Gally Cummings, Wilfred Cave, and Russia Teixeira, those guys from showcasing their great talent at that World Cup, where we would have qualified since that time. So we made it in 2006. Since that time we have probably gone backward. But let us draw on the fundamentals that are necessary for success. The bickering, the infighting, the poor organization, the lack of transparency, those things certainly will not cut it. So we saw the passion, we saw the desire of countries to succeed. Let us be inspired, and let us support the youth of the world to become more involved in football, and let us continue bringing more joy through football and not bombs, guns, and cannons. I thank you for listening. I thank you for paying attention to what I had to say. I know the message has resonated with you, and as usual, we remind you to like the video, subscribe to the channel, share and comment on the video, and of course keep tuning in to our various presentations. We remind you of our ongoing courses. We remind you to book a counseling or coaching appointment, to buy our book Conversations, and support us via the YP link by contributing financially on the description page. All you got to do is give us a call at 1-868-778-5141, 1-868-779-2544, or email us at leadershipwithadifference@gmail.com. Football was a winner. Thank you for listening, and stay tuned to another presentation.